what about blockchain, which is now celebrating 14 years. So let's start by the first one. What do you think is the barrier or the biggest barrier to widespread crypto adoption in 2023? Anna, we'll start by you.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. Let me as well first briefly introduce myself. My name is Anna Tutova. I'm co-founder of Coins.Telegram. We have a news website, YouTube channel, and PR marketing agency. So we help the projects in the space to promote them for the wider adoption. And as well, I'm partnered with fintech company called KYC Pay. We help with opening of bank accounts, setting up payment processing, licensing, and launch of neobanks. And with the question of what are the barriers for the crypto adoption? Of course, we have seen the last year was quite crucial, and we saw a number of bankruptcies, unfortunately. But as well, it's on the other side, it helped to drive the more quality projects to be on the market. And we saw the main collapse of FTX exchange when everything looks quite shiny, quite good. They made very big marketing campaigns. Everybody loved them. And then we saw that in reality, it was the fraud and users of the customer funds. We saw the collapse of algorithmic stablecoin, UST, Luna, as well as the bankruptcy of Three Arrows Capital and Celsius. And it was just like a domino effect for the industry. Of course, retail investors are super afraid now into investing into crypto, and a lot of people are just trying to be away from that. But it's generally like on all the markets. We saw the downturn as well on the traditional stock markets too. But I see there is still quite a big interest from the institutional side, and we need as well good regulations for both institutionals and retail investors to come here. And as well, we saw like all these banks, CEOs, the same. Jamie Dimon is the CEO of JP Morgan. He's always against Bitcoin cryptocurrency, but at the same time, we've seen how these big banks now even starting investing themselves into blockchain projects. Like, for example, JP Morgan invested into blockchain intelligence company TRM Labs, as well Goldman Sachs invested into it. JP Morgan invested into another company, Onera, which is tokenization service company. So we see that they're interested. Even BlackRock launched their Bitcoin Trust, and before they filed the iShares blockchain index, which tracks the performance of blockchain and cryptocurrency companies. So we see quite a big interest from the institutional side, banks as well starting to offer to the institutional clients the exposure to crypto assets, to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. So I see the interest is still there. Of course, there are some fears on the market, but I feel like in 2-3 years, when we have the bull market, the retail will come again, and we will see the bigger adoption.
We're waiting for that bull market, right? I think we're in the best position, one of the best positioned countries for that. Robert, what's your take on this?
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely would agree with a lot of what Anna said, and I think at the root of it, the adoption of anything, whether it be cryptocurrency, companies, or any new industries, it's overcoming that fear, right? There's always the fear, both of what you don't know and where something is going to go. So, you look at something like cryptocurrency, it's, all the ones that did early adopt, these are your high risk takers, right? These are your speculators. They like to jump in. But for an industry or anything to really have, mass adoption, you have to overcome so much of this uncertainty and risk. And little by little, regardless, I know we're speaking now in the middle of a crypto winter, so it's tricky to say that progress is being made, especially now with this massive fallout of this huge exchange and the collateral, the lateral effects of that exchange falling apart. But with that being said, as we've been watching here, and if you're in this crowd right now, or if you're on this panel, I'm sure that you've lived through a couple of these cycles, and with each cycle, you are seeing greater and greater adoption. If we're 2 cycles ago, you didn't have things like ETFs. You didn't have major institutions investing in cryptocurrency. Here we are now, Bitcoin is still hanging in there, above 20,000. You still have a lot of, large institutionals investing in it. You still have the ETFs that are, banking on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they still exist. They haven't collapsed. So, the adoption is starting, and I think for mass adoption to really take place, we need to keep overcoming some of these larger fears and risks. The fact that, an exchange can fall apart as massively as it did is a clear signal that we're not quite there yet, but we are still making that progress. You are still having some of these bigger names look very seriously at crypto, and whether they are, adopting, the tokens themselves into their businesses, or seeing it as an alternative means of, storing money or storing wealth, or as a medium of exchange. The adoption is coming there, but I know the regulation is a horrible word for anybody who believes in crypto, but that's part of it as well, because with some sort of oversight, people feel a little bit more comfortable. They feel a little bit like it's not just the Wild West of anything can happen. So I think as gradually, there's a little bit more oversight, as more and more larger players still start adopting the use, it will bleed into the mainstream, and we'll see more and more people using it.
Thank you. Look, you come from a different part of the game. So do you mind sharing yours?
To be honest, I agree with everything what the guys are saying. I think we have more of a duty of care. I think the big problem we have is education. We need to build this education awareness around crypto adoption. We need to make it easier for these guys to have bridges to climb over. We need to give them the ability to sometimes have to hold their hand. For true mass adoption, we all, within this industry, within this room, all want the same thing. We all want it, but to actually follow through and get that is another thing. So I feel like we need to really help and support these future potential people, the current people who are already in the industry and in the markets, to foresee and build that credibility back, build that trust back. That has, like my friend said here, they have been broken down. These stereotypes of things being volatile, things going wrong, things not being able to follow through with projects that have always been there and that we trusted. So we build the trust. I believe we build and strengthen the education around it, and with some amazing bridges, what we can allow these guys to climb over, I think we're going to be there for the future.
Amazing bridges and amazing innovations. Right. So Mrinal, on your side, what do you think it's going?
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat what everyone else said. I don't disagree with any of that, just to be clear. I do think there are two very, very big things that are preventing mass adoption. The first thing is, if you think about it, whenever a set of people have too much canonical purity, it ends up being a cult. And I think crypto needs to stop being a cult, meaning stop this decentralization, purity, we hate regulation, hey, suit, what are you doing at a crypto conference? And realize we live in a real world. People have slightly different views, and canonical purity just means you're a cult. So, we need to stop being that. And second, I think people just spout a lot of stuff about blockchain and don't draw the through line to how does this save cost or increase revenue. If you're not able to draw that through line, why should any major institution really care? Now, they might care about it as a speculative asset. Hey, I could make some money off of this because, there's a bunch of retail investors who are interested in it. That's still not mainstream. Relative to any other asset class, crypto is still incredibly tiny. The moment, and forget the crypto part, or even blockchain technology, like the reason it's not being used enough is we're not drawing the through line to saving cost and increasing revenue. And when we start doing that, adoption will happen.
Very interesting take. I was yesterday in one of in a university talk, and everybody was mentioning trading. For me, trading is not the blockchain of things. I really love to promote the blockchain because this is where the future is, not only on the trading side. And this brings us also to the traditional financial institutions, ending from your involvement. How can we see more financial institutions integrating blockchain cryptocurrencies in their services? And then we need those financial institutions, right? And then we need those regulations. So what's your take, Anna?
Yeah, so there have been always interest from traditional financial institutions and from the banks, not in the cryptocurrencies themselves, but in the blockchain as technology. And like blockchain as technology have been existing from the last century, but just it was not popular, and its popularity was driven by the adoption of cryptocurrencies as well. But we see as well that first all these big institutions were against cryptocurrency, and because it was not the side of the business, but they have been using blockchain already for years, like at least from 2018. And as well, big organizations as well, for example, like European Investment Bank already issued their second bond on a private blockchain, 100 million bond with years expiry, and before they launched another one on Ethereum. So we see big interest and as well the utility of the implementation of blockchain for them, because it's as well will help to save a lot of money and reduce the costs. And the Jupiter research prediction is that it will help at least to save 11% of the cost for the banks and financial institutions. We see as well a number of different other banks implementing blockchain. For example, HSBC have been using blockchain to ease the exchange flows between different branches. As well, Credit Suisse have been using blockchain for the settlement for the trading of US stocks. As well, like I mentioned before, JP Morgan, they are doing quite a lot in blockchain space. They launched before their Link blockchain to help to speed the interbank transactions. As well, they have their Onyx JP Morgan division. Last year, they became as well the first bank which settled the first DeFi trade using Polygon blockchain and have a platform. They did the trades of tokenized assets of Singaporean dollars and Japanese yen. So we see quite a lot of activities in that way. As well, China Construction Bank as well released their blockchain platform to identify whether the creditors and whether borrowers are risky, and as well to offer the better rates and options for the good borrowers. So we see as well quite different activities from them.
Very interesting. I think you named all of the big banks. So
yeah, and especially they as well quite interested in tokenization. And Goldman Sachs as well invested at least in 11 blockchain startups. And all I have been going to a lot of institutional and security token conferences, and there are always all these big banks present. And they have been talking about tokenization of real estate and as well securities. So there were talks for quite a long time.
Very interesting. Robert, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So for those of you in the audience that don't know me, my background is I'm a chartered accountant. So I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers as an auditor for a very long time. And so, just the general concept of blockchain, the whole concept that it's, everything is there recorded, on the chain, it's interesting. And I'm happy to have a spirited debate with this about people, but I don't know whether this is a huge threat to an industry like audit, or if this is an incredible tool to complement this industry. And I've had spirited debates with a lot of people on this, because when you think about it, what is the purpose of an audit? You're going through and you're taking samples of transactions and bank transactions and contractual transactions, and you're double checking everything to make sure it actually happened. Whereas the blockchain just does that. Like that, it's already done there. So, is this something that threatens these industries? And are these industries, whether it's like legal or accounting or auditing, are they at threat, or is this a major complement for these industries now, where this can come in, supplement as an extra layer of security, an extra layer of comfort that you can have, whether you're a business, whether you're a customer, whether you're a client, right? Knowing that this technology exists and that it's being incorporated into your your institutions, and it was naming all the banks, like obviously banks make, millions of transactions a second. There's just so many that you have to keep it, on top of. Knowing that there's a sophisticated technology out there like the blockchain that's coming mainstream, and that's going to be there, to give the ultimate consumers and users and clients that comfort that everything's being recorded, I think is huge. So I know that that's coming. I know that the adoption is happening right now. I don't know yet whether it's a threat to certain industries or it's a major complement. But I'm, as both a user of the banking system and as an entrepreneur who's out there, having my companies audited and whatnot, I'm very happy that this technology is, continuing to progress, and that it's, slowly but surely being incorporated into everything that we do.
Very interesting. I think you do now refer to as audit by design built in. So it's interesting technology to be used in the financial world.
To be honest, I think we've just got to embrace these people, these industries. That what do you want to do? What do we need? What do they need from us? What do we need from them? How can we unite? Ultimately, we've got to work together. If we want to grow and we seamlessly want to unite, we need to understand these financial institutions. We're coming from a background, AutoCoinCars, we're regulated. We've got a real world usage for this bridge that across. We're doing this every single day, and we speak with these regulators. We speak with these institutions. We want to break down their barriers that they're seeing. We want to educate them about what we do and what our industry can do, and they want to be empowered by us. But then we also want to understand how they can integrate with us, how we can be a part of this journey, be a part of this bridge together. We don't want to alienate them, and we don't want them to alienate us as well. Ultimately, for us to have any longevity here, we have to work together. We have to, that old saying, let's all play nice together. Let's unite, let's understand each other, and it's ultimate with a common goal of all being regulated and compliant together. I think that's true unity.
Yeah, I think we're all in a learning phase, us and the regulators. So, Mrinal, what's your take on?
Yeah, I don't want to repeat anything. Again, agree with most of it. I just want to make 2 points. One, to your point, I actually don't think this technology is a threat. I don't think any technology is ever a threat to any industry. I'll tell you why. Like, if you look at the history of humanity, people thought like the combine harvester is going to cause massive unemployment. Nothing happened. People are like, robotics is going to destroy, massive workforces. We're more roboticized today than we've ever been, and the world has one of its lowest unemployment rates ever. Like, usually things that cause unemployment and things like that and make industries go away is people, bad actors, and things falling apart. To wit, my second point, if we want mainstream adoption as an industry, we should embrace regulation. The problem right now is not that there isn't enough or there's too much regulation. There is no regulatory clarity. And if you want institutions to embrace anything, they will not take tail risk. Like, why take risk on when I don't know? Like, if I know that this is allowed and that's not allowed, I know what I can allocate capital to and what I cannot allocate capital to. I mean, I'm in a meaningful way. And so embracing regulation is really, really important. And then again, people will say, oh, but deregulation is great for the economy. I'm like, no, it's not. Anytime I phrased that badly. What I meant is, if you look at the worldwide economy, if a country starts, doing really, really well by embracing a technology and regulating it and having fair regulation, all you've done is forced another country to also do that, or they're ceding an advantage. So, I think people think of things as way too episodic, but when you think about it long term, there's systemic shock. But by and large, if you look at any industry or any large innovation that's happened, it's happened when it embraced regulation. The internet, if it didn't embrace regulation, it wouldn't be where it is today. Now, the fact that we can have firewalls and countries can have certain protocols around what they allow and don't allow. Now, some of us might have views for or against that. Regardless, it became mainstream when that got, when people embraced it. So.
For it to be functioning.
Just adding on to that, I think when you look at regulation, this is ever changing. This is something that today is okay, but then tomorrow might not be okay. We have to not just work today on this. This is a future proof. This is something that we need to constantly invest in, constantly embrace, with new regulations coming in, different geolocations of regulations. And if you cover different geo markets, then we have to embrace different regulators and understand that each regulatory body has different requirements. So I think it's definitely buying into them.
If I could just make one quote. So you basically made a really cogent explanation of like Milton Friedman's quote, which is the economy and the world at large is a continuum, not a set of episodes. And when you recognize that, you realize what really needs to be done.
That's how we advanced in the world, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So like this is what I was going back to. So my first point on the adoption is just, overcoming that uncertainty. And I think you started touching on something that, I agree. That regulation to come in, that's when you start feeling a little bit safer, because some body out there that governs this is saying, okay, this is what you can do. This is what you can't. And now you can say, okay, well, I had all this money on the sideline. I've been waiting to invest. What if I put it over here and then we go in this direction, right? That's where a lot of people are right now. So there's some that are saying, you know what, I'll take the risk because they're speculative and there's a lot of money to be made right now if you're willing to take that risk. There's also, of course, a lot of money to be lost. So I not only agree with that, but I find it, going back to another point that you made, which I also agree on, what is the economic, model on this? Like just to say, oh, this is a technology that's good for what? Good for change.
What are you trying to solve?
Yeah, what is, so for example, if I go back to my audit debate, I agree with you. I think any technology that, is improving our lives in some way, of course, we got to embrace it and we got to work with it. Even if it's a threat, for example, to an audit industry, no matter what, this is something that is going to save time. It's going to increase, confidence, and it's going to only help these industries. So from an economic perspective, this is at the very least saving time, but at more, it's saving time, it's saving money. It's allowing us to allocate resources to other areas of business that we could otherwise be focusing on, rather than wasting our time double and triple checking, every transaction. So I think that's coming, and I agree with the regulation part of it, but everything is just, it slowly evolves. I think anybody expecting regulation to hit this year or next year or by the next cycle, I think they got a bigger weight ahead of them.
Yeah, I as well agree that technology is not a threat, but it's not a threat as well in other ways. So we talk a lot about the necessity of regulations, but as well the regulators should understand that we don't need to regulate the technology, the protocol itself, for example, like smart contracts in blockchain. We need to just regulate the entities, the centralized entities who manage the businesses. And we saw as well some cases like with Tornado Cash, when the developer of that mixer was arrested because Tornado Cash is banned now in US, and they considered that some transactions in North Korea were made via this Tornado Cash and some other illegal transactions. But generally, we shouldn't ban the open source protocols. It's the same like with email SMT technology. We don't ban email technology. We just ban spam. It's irrelevant. So
True, not the technology itself.
We should just regulate better the centralized entities as well. Like, for example, if we had better regulations, maybe such bad actors as FTX wouldn't come.
Very interesting. I just want to see the rise of hands. Who of you think that UAE and Dubai in specific is doing great job in adoption of cryptocurrencies? I love it. Yeah, I think we are living really in a city where it's on the forefront of such technologies from different things, not just the blockchain. We spoke a lot about regulation. What about awareness, training? How can we break that part in advocating more and then trying to bridge and get more people involved in the region? What do you think, Anna?
As for different means of education now, there is so much information on the internet, so it rather depends on the wish of this or that person to learn something and to find more information. And of course, probably there are still a lot of people who are not aware about cryptocurrency, so they just heard, they just didn't dive deep into it, and like still a lot of people consider it to be a scam, risk, and so many people even don't invest anywhere, so they're afraid of any kind of investment. So they as well don't really read much about technology. But generally, we have a number of sources as well. I run a news media company. We write a lot of articles. We publish different interviews with the leaders of the industry on our YouTube channel. We have been making a documentary film as well to explain to people what Bitcoin is, decentralization, the necessity of this technology, how it's as well vital tool for the developing countries. So there are a number of sources where to learn from, and as well such events as this conference as well. Like, of course, here most of the people who are well versed in technologies, in blockchain and cryptocurrency, but as well we meet a couple of people here who are from the other industries too, so they're keen to learn.
Very good. I think does ChatGPT solve this? I think it's a trendy word now. Everybody says ChatGPT, ChatGPT. Robert, what's your take?
Yeah, I don't have anything groundbreaking to say here. I feel that we're living a time right now that's and we have for quite some time now, where anybody who wants to learn about something, there's just so much available information. So if you want to learn about crypto, you can. There's conferences worldwide. There's an abundance on the internet. It's not so much about wanting, we don't have to force education on people. This is a wave of technology that's coming, and the more and more it gets adopted into our everyday lives, the more and more it gets used by institutions that we're used to, the more and more that it's, cryptocurrency is a medium that we could potentially use to, exchange for goods and services. That education is going to come because you're going to be forced to learn it because it's going to be part of everyday life. So I think that, rather than, having any like forced education, I think people, they have the resources that are available to them. I think as the adoption continues to progress, which I believe it is, I think more and more people will just be propelled and motivated to go and learn more about it. And as more and more people learn about it, I think it will only contribute to the industry as a whole, because you'll have more and more players in it, more and more people trying to make it better, more and more working towards, better, smarter regulation. And, that'll only increase mass adoption.
Thank you, Robert. We have 2 minutes. So I'll give you 1 minute and then 1 minute to wrap up. And maybe you want to do a recommendation also.
To be honest, if you'd allow me to give a bit of a cheesy example of the chicken or the egg, I think this is where we're at. We need real use case scenarios that's going to then really give people the awareness and education of a utility of cryptocurrency. But then we also need crypto users to want to use it, to have the need and desire to want to spend or want to do something with what they're looking at on this screen. So I think that's a debate in itself, which one comes first, chicken or the egg with cryptocurrency or utility.
Yeah, I agree. People learn best by example and analogy. Agree with everything. One point I would like to make, though, is there's a lot of great content on blockchain out there, but the actual problem is get the miseducation out. There's all this content about crypto is about, sticking it to the man, bro. We're taking over the financial world.
Changing paradigms.
Yeah. So basically, we need more stuff like this, and we need to, my advice would be we should stop giving idiots airtime.
Who agrees on that? We have a question. Do we have a mic?
Okay, so a very interesting discussion. I pretty much agree with everything you said, except by the following. I think the real problem with adoption is generational. We will not see mass adoption of this technology for the next 5 to 10 years. And the reason is that we're waiting for the generation that only grew up with this to be the next consumer base for this product. It's going to happen little by little, but I think that The key issue here is a generational issue. We are asset managers, crypto asset managers, so we know what we're doing about it. But I was in Africa last week advising a country there on their digital adoption. And the reason why they said that they believe they can do that, because the average of their population is 15 years old. So I think that you should have a word about the generational change.
Mind if I make a quick comment on that? Or are we
Quick one before we.
All right, real quick. I agree, but I think there's two forces. One is generational change, and the way to deal with generational change is that technology needs to be invisible, right? Like my granddad started using email once, like it was just, hey, I hit a few buttons, and like, you know, it doesn't, like, it was much easier. Right now, crypto, like the technology is visible. You don't, it should work in such a way that you don't even know you're using blockchain, and that will help with that trend. But that is a macro trend that will exist. Yeah, I do agree. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Mrinal, I'm going to throw a question at you because I'm going to take host privilege. So, I mean, yes, obviously, we want to educate everyone on the tech and where it's going and everything else. I don't know if it's really possible to censor or remove or silence or outshout their voices, because it is the world of YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily assume that's our prerogative. So maybe you want to expand on that a little?
Yeah, I'm not advocating censorship. That would be a really weird thing to do given what I do for a living. So, yeah, no.
That's kind of what I was getting at. You live and breathe decentralization. I remember you saying that a year and a half ago.
Yeah. What I really meant is you can choose what you want to, like, serious people in the industry and capital allocators in the industry can choose which voices they want to make louder, right? And sometimes they really do give airtime to people who really aren't doing this with the best intent. I'm not advocating censorship. I'm advocating amplification of serious debate about how we can actually make this go mainstream versus amplification of people who want to keep this a cult.
And that, my friends, is the spirit of the Agora Blockchain Congress. So
Thank you all.
yeah. Let's do a group photo of these wonderful people.